All right. I'm not going to keep this part in the VOD, so let me put the title back on and pretend like we didn't talk about it. Hey guys, happy Sunday. Good to talk to you for the first time today. Kepu, I do not like it. Rom, hi. Good time. Finally, get to see you at the very start of the stream. Sometimes our pre-stream discussions are great. Usually they're amazing. This one went a little off, a little stinky. But anyways, yeah. I'm glad you guys are here. So, yeah, let me reiterate for next week. Next week I have my festival. You could check out updates on my festival stuff and the links. I'll post my Instagram's focus on festival stuff and fun stuff. My threads is for tech talk and kind of being me. It's kind of like the new Twitter. My Twitter is rave talk, which I don't really use as much for sure. Oh yeah, I also have to post 2 threads. But yeah, so yeah, next week I have a festival. It's gonna be a 3-day festival, so I won't be around for Fridays and Sunday stream, unfortunately. But Sunday's Tech Talk will be postponed to the following Sunday, and I'm gonna cover 2 weeks of topics. It's not gonna be an extra long show. I'm gonna pick the best topics in the 2 weeks, and we'll go over it together. So let me do my social post. If you're on Threads, and you're enjoying it, that's awesome. If you're not on Threads, that's cool too. I find Threads to be great. Let me grab a copy pasta so I can do that. Now, Threads hit the web. So they have a web-based version of Threads, but I can't remember my password. So you know, like, yeah, that's kind of the problem here. So because I can't remember password, we're not really gonna use the web version as much. Let's put a little emote. Let's put a heart. Okay. All right, I made that post. My reaction was better than laughter. Well, it's an honest reaction. So, yeah. Here's a... Oh, can you see? You can't see the cow. Oh, the reflections. Anyways. Yeah. I would like to welcome you guys to episode 8 of Technical with Sharlit Elise. We're going to start in one moment. But I'm glad you guys are here. This week we have quite a few topics to talk about. And usually with the news, things are pretty pessimistic, right? Like it's usually pretty hard to find positive news. But this week, we are blessed with very positive news for you, the consumer, and me, the also consumer. We consume together. That AMD FSR new tech is positive. I have not seen the new FSR. I don't know how it compares to DLSS. But hey, I am liking that new AMD GPU that was released in partnership with Starfield. That's a good looking card. It has all these like little accents to, excuse me, bad oatmeal, make me hiccup. Huh. Yeah, I was going to cover AMD FSR at some point in a previous episode, but I chose not to. But AMD FSR is the graphical upscaler for AMD or GPUs, graphical processors. And AMD has always been pretty steady with their growth and their, I guess, when it comes to GPUs, they've been solid, right? Like a solid 10% of the market, which is still enough to make you pretty rich, but not filthy green NVIDIA rich. But AMD's technologies has always been more open source. Don't quote me on open source, but more free for other manufacturers to use, namely NVIDIA manufacturers. Like NVIDIA tech works on AMD. NVIDIA hardware works on AMD tech. Like that's generous. While in the inverse, NVIDIA has made efforts to sabotage games so that AMD GPUs don't work well. Right? Look at, I think it was XRISM, where they create a tessellation cement block that NVIDIA didn't handle well, but AMD graphical processing units were even worse. So it's good. I would say good guy AMD. But I am neither NVIDIA nor AMD. I am on the Intel side. I'm waiting for a new one. Let's talk about a few topics before we get into today. But first, I want to welcome you guys. This is an interactive show that is live on Twitch right now. That will be posted to YouTube, Spotify, and we are now on Apple Podcasts. So if you want to interact with the show on any of those platforms, feel free. I do read comments and I do respond to them if you have any questions. But if you're joining us live here on Twitch, 1 p.m. Eastern Time every Sunday, I will be talking and discussing with you the topics that are trending within the tech world. Now, tech means everything from fintech, financial tech, to tech, like hardware tech, gaming hardware tech, to food tech, which might be a topic that I'm working on in the background. But yeah, I cover mostly things that are pretty interesting, some mainstream stuff. I try to do some mainstream stuff, but I don't feed into drama, right? Now, there's a lot of drama going around. I'm just going to quickly touch upon it. If you heard about Linus Tech Tips and their current situation with the way they present information and the accuracy of that data, there is a big overhaul over at LTT, and a lot of companies or a lot of shows are kind of covering it. And I don't want to cover something, well, one that's kind of drama, because I don't really have that much interest in drama. I do care very much for LTT, but I don't really care about drama, so I'm not covering that. There's also a whole other dramatic things happening in the tech world, but today we're talking about a few highlights. I want to bring up the ChatGPT. Remember GPT. I'm sorry, I have to enunciate it. Remember we talked about ChatGPT learning off of the New York Times last week, right? Reading articles, parsing data, and kind of returning it to users in their own form, aka AI plagiarizing. At least that's the lawsuit that's at hand. Well, now ChatGPT actually goes out of its way to hide information from copywritten books. So if you want to be like, oh, what was on the first line of the second chapter of the Song of Ice and Fire, and then the Chat GPT will be like, well, 不知道, I don't know. What's up, Allison? Welcome to Technical with Sharlit Elise. So yeah, OpenAI has decided, let's teach the AI to kind of hide some of that information. Don't show your hand, because we don't want more lawsuits. So I don't know if that is going to trigger an audit, because clearly a lot of people have noticed that ChatGPT is not citing copywritten works the way they used to. But if you've had experience or noticed a change in the AI, then let me know. I haven't really tested it. I use AI when I need it. For the most part, I don't really need it right now, unless it can somehow teach me how to make like a new type of ramen. That would be really nice. Actually, it probably can. Anyways, can ChatGPT show movies in ASCII codes? I am sure it can. I am sure it can. It's all about users trying to trick the AI into doing something they shouldn't. But this is early in the AI era, right? We're only like half a year. Well, we're only like a year, right? Almost a year in, right? When did it start? I mean, AI has been around, but mainstream wise, I don't know. It's only a few months, around less than a year. And people are already kind of falling off it, right? Like it's a cool toy for the average user, but the average user doesn't need AI unless they could program it to do things they would like. Maybe you could work on that, Rom, and teach ChatGPT to show you movies in ASCII. The next topic is also a topic we covered back in episode 5, because we're in episode 8 today. We talked a little bit about Cruise, the robo-taxi company in San Francisco, how the law is now permitting them to run their taxis 24/7, driverless. That's kind of like letting your kid roam free, telling your kid, hey, I'm going to be out every day of the week. Don't throw parties. And guess what? Cruise did. And recently already, one of the Cruise taxis, the self-driving taxis, drove into a fire truck. And immediately the city is like, you know what? We take back everything we said. You could only run half of the volume of taxis you were deploying. I don't know what the volume was, but once again, it's a big red fire truck. It's a big red fire truck. If you can't tell the difference between a big red fire truck and pretty much any other object on the road, then your taxi is not ready. I'm sorry. There's a reason why they're big and red. It's so that they can catch the eye while on the road. So clearly, maybe it's not red enough. I don't know. So yeah. Have I seen one of the self-driving cars in New York? No, I have not. I've not been blessed with that. I don't even know if it's like permissible here to have a self-driving car. But I'm not eager. Remember, there was a piece of news about self-driving cars in San Francisco. Basically, 2 days after this lawsuit, everything's a lawsuit. After this this rule came into effect, people were already fornicating. Yes, fornicating. I'm using adult words here. Fornicating in the back seats of these cars. And I'm pretty sure if they're willing to do that, they're not wiping down the seats, okay? I'm just going to say it. They're not cleaning up. And I'm good. I think I'm just going to walk. It's good exercise, and I'll keep my pants clean. What's up, Z? Next up, we have a robot wouldn't peek on you. No, it wouldn't, except, funny you bring that up, Rom. Rom in chat says, a robot wouldn't peek on you. Or would it? I forgot which robot vacuum company, but it was one of them that had one of the robo vacuums spy on one of the users. Back in November of last year, there was a woman sitting on the toilet, and the robot vacuum captured a picture of her, or footage. I'm not entirely sure. And somehow that image got on Facebook. And she didn't find out about it until she was on Facebook. And therefore, even robot vacuums are super hungry for knowledge. I don't think it was Dyson. I don't want to say the name unless I knew for sure. Sorry, I punched a mic. For sure. But, well, there's Roomba too, right? There's Dyson, there's Roomba. There's a lot of third-party ones nowadays. Maybe a few years ago, it was just like Roomba, but now there's a lot of third-party ones. So, anyways, the last bit of off-topic news, just to get you guys warmed up. I want to preface this last piece with, it's the collaboration you've been waiting for. It's the collaboration between one gaming powerhouse and one household powerhouse. Well, that would be none other than the partnership between Razer and Gillette. There is actually a Razer releasing sometime, somewhere. I don't know why. But you know what? I almost want one, because if Razer can help me perform better, then I guess maybe you get faster speedrun cuts when it comes to shaving your legs or your face or your skull, your head. Some people shave their head. I want to say they're bald, anyways, I probably should say it's too late. It's said. I meant head, not skull. All right. Anyways, obviously. So, today's 3 topics are how the EU Digital Service Act changes how we consume content. Sorry, because you need consent to change, don't we? The second topic, this spacecraft sheds new light on the universe. And the third topic of today is the Right to Repair Act has a new ally. I would say an ally that we didn't expect, but is that too much for you to guess? Well, you'll have to find out when we get to topic 3. But first, let's talk about the European Digital Services Act. Check this out.
Is everything all right? All good. What's taking you so long?
Tired of complicated terms and conditions? With the DSA, you will have clear terms and conditions for online services suitable for users of all ages.
Well, that is breaking news for the week. The Digital Service Act is a bill that will be passed to force online platforms such as YouTube, Meta, or well, Facebook, Instagram, to be more transparent with several things. Firstly, their algorithm. Certain data that they collect on you cannot be used for targeted ads. And it really changes the way that we will be consuming content in the near future. Now, this is an EU exclusive because actually I'm like super pro EU right now because they are making so many moves to help the rest of the world. Because of their market, they have changed how Apple needs to conform. Instead of using a proprietary Thunderbolt connection, they have to conform to a USB port. Like, it's great. So, Ram says, I still have no idea what the DSA is. The DSA is a bill that forces online platforms to change how they share, to be more transparent with how they interact with us as consumers, right? So, for example, you'll be going on YouTube, and, well, at some point, YouTube thought I was an Indian woman who was highly interested in a career in Bollywood. So they would show me how to get into the field, videos on how to get into the field. They would show me Bollywood movies. And I'm not exactly a Bollywood fan. Honestly, I have not consumed my fair share of Bollywood to say that, but I'm not into it. Okay, I don't even want to watch Marvel movies. Okay, that's another topic. Don't at me on that. But yeah, so this this bill will prevent services from from tracking using our targeted profiles to push content to us. It's also going to remove illegal content. Now, believe it or not, there are platforms with illegal content, and like I think X had some illegal content, like people were posting movies and stuff. So like they will have a system to remove illegal content. Most already do, but this is just a ruling that it must be enforced. Second, there's going to be a reporting system. And a lot of platforms do have reporting systems. YouTube is kind of sketchy, though. YouTube is a little weird. Sometimes you tell YouTube, I don't want to see this video. Sometimes they don't let you say, I don't want to see this video. So what this is going to do is going to unify all these aspects of the platforms. And targeted ads, right, will not take into consideration your sexual orientation, your religion, your ethnicity, or your political beliefs. The last one being pretty important, because when it comes to politics, people feel very strongly about it. And oftentimes there are some people who are predatory towards whatever side you're on. It doesn't matter. That's not the point. But they are predatory to sell you content that because of your preference for that political stance. I know some people, I'm not going to name them, that continuously buy into a certain narrative to the point where they're donating money that they probably shouldn't be doing. And these are basically shills selling content to promote a political message, right? So by banning advertisements, right, like promoted content that that pushes a particular agenda to people who are more susceptible to it, it can kind of, or start making some steps towards protecting us when we're on these large platforms. So, if advertising can no longer consider a person's sexual orientation, religion, ethnicity, or political stance, what can advertisers target under the DSA? Right? The DSA is not yet in place, but how is this going to hurt advertising? Well, they can still target us based upon age. There's no, nothing there to say that they can't target age. To them, though, isn't that just their targeted demographic, says Z? Yeah, but under this act, if you are making content that is targeting a particular political group, it will not be delivered to them. It will be delivered to everyone, but it will not be delivered to a specific person they have in mind. Like there are, there are going to be, okay, for example, the Republican Party, like what type of advertisements do they get? They get the My Pillow guy. A pillow salesman becomes a political figure because he knows that's how he's going to get sales. People who are salespeople often will find the market that suits them best and then change their principal values, at least on the public facing side, so that they could sell more product. That's kind of what that guy did. And plus, he seems like the type who wants to be famous, right? Additionally, although the DSA still seems to allow people to target based upon age, and we'll see what other targeting avenues there are, targeted ads will be limited when it comes to children, because this whole act is about protecting consumers, people who consume content that includes adults and children. And children might get more Robux bucks, or whatever they call them, Robux ads, and more loot box ads, right? So if these restrictions are lifted, we could kind of normalize the type of content that people consume, and it's not repeatedly angling in a certain way. The platform's algorithms, all the platform's algorithms will be transparent. So when Z says, I forgot how much I need Robux. Exactly, right? Don't worry, an ad will remind you. Just tell them you're like 11 years old. So when I was making YouTube videos for Stalker, I was kind of talking with some person who was heavily invested into figuring out the algorithm. And we were talking about a lot of things, and we were talking about how to market an FPS game on YouTube. And the biggest marketing tool you have is the thumbnail. That's why there are people that you hire to specifically do thumbnails. That's their only job. They don't need to do anything else. They just got to make a banger of a thumbnail, and that will help your video, your content be accepted into the algorithms like elite, and then pushed to users. Speaking of which, I need to work on my thumbnail. I'm not going to do like some super cringe thing, but I don't currently have a thumbnail for this series. But when I was working on it, I was trying to push in FPS content. It is preferred that I put a first-person gun in the thumbnail. By doing that, you convince the algorithm, you explain to the algorithm what type of game that you're trying to showcase. And it actually can help the performance of the video, at least according to some, because while we don't have transparency on it, that seems to be the pattern when it comes to first-person content. Ramhook says, it can either be cringe and popular or informative but not popular. Yeah, well, that's what people choose to consume, the majority of people. I am not a cringe content creator. I never was. I like my funny moments, yeah, and I'll capture them, but I don't purposely go out of my way to fake cringe or anything. And yeah, I like the informative. Kepu says, if only they had thumbnails that are short videos, then we would need someone to clip the thumbnails. Kepu. Are you a parent as well, dad jokes? Ramhook says, by cringe, I mean a stupid facial expression and text like, I never knew this was possible. Yeah, that, honestly, one, it's preying on people's like kind of instinct to react to certain faces. And it's telling the algorithm that this is high quality content because, that's what it is, right? So increase transparency on the algorithm. Also, users can opt out of recommendation systems on their platform. They can actually opt out. You may have heard about YouTube saying if you clear your watch history, you will not get recommended videos. Platforms are already making the moves to integrate a more open and forced content like way of doing things. People can actually have a toggle. It will depend on the platform how the toggle works, but you can opt out of being forced recommendations. So who does this really affect? Well, anyone who consumes content on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, other platforms such as Amazon will also be affected. For whatever reason, I'm not going to say why or what I think, but at some point, Amazon started recommending me knee pads. Take it as you will. It's because I will explain it. I think I'll have to explain it. It's because I bought roller skates, so they recommended knee pads. But it just is just a little different. I don't know. It was weird. Yeah, so if you have like some weird recommendations, expect that to be at least cleared and refreshed moving forward. This whole act will likely spread to other regions across the world. EU is such a big market that forcing platforms to change will undeniably like make this ruling be more widespread, and it would aid other regions to not get tracked and have all these opt-ins. So let's take a look at all the companies that are currently considered large enough for the DSA to affect as of right now. The first is we have Alibaba, AliExpress. We also have the Amazon store, Apple App Store, Booking.com, which is a traveling website. We got Facebook, Google Play, Google Maps, Google Shopping. People use Google Shopping. We got Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Snapchat. I honestly don't know how people are still using Snapchat. I mean, is it considered a giant platform? I guess they think so. I don't hear Snapchat once a year, except I've said Snapchat more times this stream than I have heard it from other people in 5 years. We got TikTok, we got Twitter, Wikipedia, YouTube, Zalando, which is a German fashion and shoe website. Apparently, that's a huge deal because their name is put next to the likes of YouTube, Amazon, Google search. They must be doing really well. We got Bing search and Google search. All of these things will be changed and transparency will be shared with users. According to Google, they said, building on our prior efforts to help advance public understanding of our services, we will increase data access for researchers looking to understand more about how Google Search, YouTube, Google Maps, Google Play, and Shopping work in practice, and conducting research related to understanding systemic content risks in the EU. AKA, we're going to tell you more about it. And other platforms such as Meta has also done that. And Meta is the parent company of Facebook and Instagram. And this is what they have to say. Of course, not everyone will find information just because we publish it on our website. That's why we make it possible to see details directly in our apps about why our system's predicted content would be relevant to you and the types of activity and inputs that may have led to that prediction. So Meta is doing exactly what the DSA asked for. They're telling you how you're getting these recommendations and what actions attribute to that. So how will having more detail on a platform's algorithm affect you? Are you going to shop around before settling on a social platform? Because nowadays, with Twitter not being Twitter and X kind of good for some and not good for others, these platforms are becoming more closed to certain communities, maybe due to politics, maybe due to racism and toxicity. Some platforms are more tolerable or tolerant over these topics, but yeah, I think when in the future we will come to a point where every user is shopping for new platforms, platforms that adhere to their principles. Some people don't mind being tracked. Don't get me wrong. Targeted advertisements aren't necessarily wrong. Some people like it. Some people don't want it. But having the option to turn things off and to see under the hood and how it works is going to help us consume the content more safely. And it's just so funny that Google and Facebook, they're already so on board and they're talking like they always cared about transparency and they're so forward with it. And I think there's a good reason. Rom Hook says, I wonder what my YouTube recommendations will be after I opt out. I wonder, because there's going to be a few things. You could also turn off recommendations too. So there's going to be a lot of ways that is going to change. TikTok is also making changes to the algorithm. When the algorithm is disabled, you'll see videos based upon like the whole world rather than localized videos. I don't use TikTok enough to really be that familiar with it. Romhook says, I don't want to end up on YouTube trending by accident. Is YouTube trending videos not to your liking? I definitely don't. I am a person that does not consume content that I'm not interested in. Some platforms I'm very much like open to whatever you give me. It's cool. Like Threads is good for that. Threads has a section for whatever, everything under the sun, and your recommendations are your follows only, right? So it doesn't have recommendations per se, not hard recommendations, but it does have like a more open feed and a very closed follower only feed, which I love. Snapchat was also going to do something, but once again, who the hell uses Snapchat? So I don't care. I'm so sorry. So what if a company doesn't care? We don't need the EU market, right? We're going to do what we do. And what is the EU going to do about it? Well, the EU is going to fine that company, that rogue company, 6% of the annual turnover. 6%. It's not like here's a $10,000 fine. It's taking a percentage cut of all your revenue. And in the worst case, well, this might be something we have to be worried about. For rogue platforms refusing to comply with important obligations and thereby endangering people's life and safety, it will be possible as a last resort to ask a court for a temporary suspension of their service. That means if your favorite platform, if AliExpress does not want to stop tracking your data, or TikTok does not want to stop tracking your data and subtly pushes content to feed you a certain like targeted advertisements, then they might actually be banned from the EU. And that is a big, big deal. I love how the EU is taking a stance on things that they really care about, especially in the tech world. Innovations that we will experience in time are happening mostly in California and in the EU, apparently. Isn't TikTok banned already? How is it banned in most US states but not in the EU? I think it's banned in some capacity. I don't know the full TikTok legal system. I know, So Crow. Snapchat isn't used for regular purposes. Oh, I know. I know they're banned from being used on government devices. That's what we talked about last week. It's banned in government buildings. Yeah. Yeah. Same thing. Yeah. So, like, these platforms are all going to change. We have that list of 19 platforms and search, and including the Bing search and Google search. And all of these are going to change. How long? It's going to take a little bit, but in the next week, they're going to have one more hearing. Then it will be pushed forward to assembly, and then we're going to see only the EU affected at first. But if this is how the EU is taking a stance, probably a few months is going to happen to the states. And I'm really grateful for this. I think it's really good. I'm going to play around with it when the time comes, and I'll see if I like it more or less. So, the next topic. Oh, you guys are talking about TikTok being banned. So Crow says there's a federal rule on it, that they are banned in the government buildings. Yeah, mostly because of data collection and, of course, productivity. Government devices are banning that platform. funny. It's like you're allowed to waste your time on YouTube during work hours, but not TikTok. That's it's a national security apparently. Anyways, if you have any further comments, feel free to share them. But we're going to roll into our second topic today, and that is a spacecraft that sheds new light into or onto the universe. So, spacecraft. A long time ago, I think it was like the 90s, we cared a lot more about space. The 80s, the 90s. And then there was a significant period like 2000 to 2010-ish that we didn't really care about space. But now we have a great deal of interest in space with Elon Musk trying to shoot people in rockets and charge them bazillions of dollars to do so. And perhaps space travel will happen within the next 10 years. It's going to be costly, I'm sure. So I don't think many of us will have that privilege. Even if we had the money, we probably wouldn't be selected. But yeah, so what is happening? There's a new telescope that is being sent into space, and it is called XRISM. It's spelled XRISM. And it's called XRISM because I feel like they wanted to call it XRISM because it had a cool X in it, but it was hard to pronounce, so they just, unified the pronunciation. XRISM. This telescope is a joint operation that is led by JAXA, which is Japan's aerospace initiative. Similar to NASA, right? Which is the partner. And there is support from the European space program as well. What does it stand for? It stands for X-ray. I didn't write that down. I totally missed on it. Let me take a look right now. All right, X-ray imaging and spectroscopy mission. Right. So we're going to talk a little bit about what all that means. So this new X-ray telescope is the latest technology in high resolution spectroscopy. I need to practice saying that. And high throughput imaging for investigating celestial objects, aka a really strong telescope with a really strong camera looking at space stuff. That's really what you need to know. And XRISM, I'm starting to say the wrong word now. XRISM is currently the only project being launched in recent years only X-ray project launched in recent years. In 2016, Japan tried to send Hitomi, which is another satellite with X-ray capabilities, to observe things like matter near black holes. And that mission only lasted a month. In February of 2016, they launched the satellite, they launched the telescope, and then within a month, they lost contact of it, and it was lost. So that is kind of why we have XRISM right now, because the next big mission that is planned is called Athena, and that's in 2035. So that's still a ways off. So this is going to be a stopgap for space logging, and that's what it's really for. It's about logging what they're seeing in space. And with the latest technology, they could get a little more information on what's out there. So how does this telescope actually see what's out there? Well, the term is called, technology is called spectroscopy, which is, let me show you. Well, I'll show you in a second, but it's, actually take a look at this is how the telescope will look like. That is not how the telescope will look like. Um, sorry, I got my slides mixed up. All right. But yeah, so talking about this telescope is a scientist from the ESA over talking about XRISM. X-ray astronomy enables us to study the most energetic phenomena in the universe. It holds the key to answering important questions in modern astrophysics: how the largest structures in the universe evolve, how the matter we are ultimately composed of was distributed throughout the cosmos, and how galaxies are shaped by massive black holes at their centers. So Z says they lost contact with Hitomi aliens. Those alien sons of bitches, said Z. Perhaps. But with this new X-ray telescope, it's going to have much higher fidelity than what we're accustomed to. Now, we don't have images of it performing yet because it hasn't launched, but it will launch very soon. I'll give you details where you can watch the launch right here on well, not right here, but here on YouTube. So it's going to be that. But with this high resolution telescope, will we have enough evidence to finally convince flat earthers that the earth isn't flat? Is this going to be enough evidence to convince people? I understand some people still believe in the flat earth stuff, but I also don't understand how they believe in this stuff. So here's a picture of the XRISM via concept art. So it's a nice golden, I would like to say railgun, but telescope. Looks like it's adorned with tinfoil, and well, I guess is very pretty. I don't know what that gold plating is or the gold exterior is. Maybe it just looks cool. I mean, you know how like Call of Duty, like the final gun skin is always like solid gold or something, right? Z says, I thought we got rid of flat earth a long while ago. But I guess it's some sort of space funding. People like to believe in their own stuff. Kapu says, evidence won't help if the recipient lacks the ability to understand it. Evidence won't help also if they don't want to listen. They don't want to hear anything different. People are like that. But let's talk a little bit about spectroscopy and what that really is. Spectroscopy is using something like prisms, where we shoot light and then we see how the light reacts to the matter. In the case of a prism, it splinters the light into a rainbow-like pattern. The shorter waves like blue or violet, they bend more than the larger waves. Z says, a prism. I can't believe I said it right the first time. But then you got longer waves like red and orange, and they spread out a different way, right? So these tiny bits of of differences in how a certain pigment bends, it creates a really lovely pattern, actually. It's like the razor, but prism. Oh, thank you, Ron, for that. So the spectroscopy uses the telescope to collect data by measuring existing materials on Earth. They're measuring existing materials on Earth, and then when they put the telescope into space and they look at something, they try to get a similar pattern. This next illustration will kind of demonstrate what that would look like, because each material on Earth has a different pattern. So we're gonna go to here, and you could see this is what the spectroscope, God, it's so difficult. Spectroscope shows. It shows the hydrogen fingerprint on the left side, right? So this is the pattern. When the telescope is looking at hydrogen, they're going to see this pattern. When they are looking at helium, they're going to look at, it's going to look like the medium, the middle pattern, the medium. The helium fingerprint will look like the middle pattern. And then lastly, the carbon fingerprint will look like that. Ron says, so they look for Earth-like planets. They look at all matter in space. Helium is the medium. Z, you're trying to get me tongue-tied. It's working. So all these things, all these materials, their unique fingerprints can be identified. And then when they collect all that data, they start comparing it to the data that they've tested on Earth. And that's how they could figure out what something is extremely far away. They don't have to hold it in their hand anymore. Now, previously, in previous generations of X-ray technology, it has been a little difficult to see things. But with XRISM, the images are much sharper, and all this information will be more readily collected. And no longer do we have to do as much guessing. So the XRISM will create spectra, a measurement of light's intensity over a range of energies. The X-rays will range from 400 to 12,000 electron volts. For me, I don't know what the hell that means. I'm not that crazy of a science person, but to give you an idea, the light that we see is not 400 to 12,000. The light that we see is 2 to 3 electron volts. So it covers a lot of what we can't see and what we can't identify with our own eyes. And it measures it. So to kind of sum everything up, take a look at this. Hello, I'm still down here. This is XRISM in a nutshell. That's our, on the left, we have XRISM is a Java JAXA-led mission. And in exchange for scientific advice and hardware, the European Space Initiative will have 8% of their observing time. So they kind of rent out like space for them to use it because they contribute hardware. This telescope will launch. It will be live on YouTube. I'll give you the dates right after this. So you could see it if you're interested. And so the two components, the two instruments, we talked about it. I did not name them, but the telescope is called Resolve. And the camera, the high resolution camera that's going to capture things, that's called extend. So with these two, that's how they're collecting all the data. This XRISM will run for 3 years. That's the planned flight, the planned mission. There's been a lot of our missions that are planned for 3 years, but are around for much longer. And any additional data is obviously welcome. So that's kind of why they just keep tabs on some of these old projects. When XRISM is destroyed or discontinued, it will be evaporated or incinerated in the Earth's atmosphere when it drops. So that's actually how they get rid of some of these monumental structures in space. They just let it burn away. I always thought they just, I don't know, leave it out there. But I guess it makes sense, right? Because if you're sending more stuff into space, you don't exactly want them to collide. There's so much junk already, it hardly matters. On Earth or in space? So yeah, XRISM, I'm going to put the link in the chat right now. But XRISM is going to be viewed. Let me get the link, copy, paste. This is the YouTube channel where they will live stream the launch. The broadcast for the launch is going to be 8:55 a.m. on August 28th, Japan time, JST. If you are interested, there is this website I'm going to link. That's not the website. This is the website. This website will convert Japan's time to your local time. You go to the website, you plug in your location. I already preset it to have Japan be converted to your local time so you can see the launch. In the case of US East, we're going to be able to see the launch at 8 p.m. tonight, actually. So it's only going to be a few hours from now. But if you're interested, I won't be streaming at that time. You can go watch them launch this space. Jesus. What's up, Chris? My room, thank you. Me and my phantom chair. Kapu says JST stands for Japanese Samurai Time. Jesus. Oh, that's terrible. Data, what's up? Yeah, so XRISM, kind of neat. A lot of sciencey stuff. I do want to cover more science stuff. I am not as versed, but I do my best to learn as I go, and over time I'll kind of get a clearer picture of things. If you have any feedback or suggestions, or you're like a science buff, or even not science, if you have any corrections, feel free to submit it to me for my own knowledge and corrections in the future. And lastly, we're going to roll into our third topic for today. But let's take a tiny little break as we walk into space.
Just please give me a call. Bye.
I need to get water.
I've been stuck in my head. Think I need to escape. Feels like I'm waiting. Do you feel the same? My mom used to say that no matter how famous, at the end of the day, you only wanna feel safe. But I'd rather walk into space to see if you're still awake. If it's ever gonna be
That was Zorro with Walking into Space. That was not planned. I just love Zorro, and that was the first song I saw, and it's kind of perfect for a space talk. Our last topic, though, is not about space talk. It's actually, and someone guessed it before, it's actually the Right to Repair Act has a new ally in Apple. Let's say you have a phone that's waterproof. Now, what's the best part about having a waterproof phone? It's bringing it into the shower because you need to get your YouTube fix and you can't help it. You bring your phone into a shower and you're watching your YouTube, and in your slippery hands, the phone slips out and cracks its glass, the screen on the edge of your shower, the edge of your tub. Well, what are you to do? You could buy a new phone, but if you have an iPhone, you definitely paid too much. And if you have an Android, you probably paid too much because, I mean, who has an extra $1,000 lying around? Some people do, but it's still unnecessary if you just cracked your screen. For whatever reason, maybe the warranty doesn't cover your bathroom shenanigans. So what other option you have? Well, you could get it repaired. But funnily enough, until recently, the consumer's right to repair phones and other electronics has been stunted by proprietary tools, licenses, and other manufactured barriers to prevent people from repairing their own devices. Let's see. Rom says, you guys have phones? Do you guys not have phones? No, I mean, that's what I said, but, I can't help it. Rom also says, who watches YouTube in the shower? I do. I do. Okay? I do. But my phone is not waterproof. My old phone used to be, so I have to be very careful with this guy. He's lasted me quite a bit. See, look, the only damage I have is here, and you can't even really see it. But yeah, it's time for a new phone. Z says, if you're watching YouTube in a shower, you probably deserve it to be broken. Yeah, and that's why it's not going to be covered under warranty. I mean, some people might lie about their warranty, but they could look for water damage when you send it in. So, Kapu says, this is a very specific scenario. Has it happened to you? I have not dropped my phone in the shower, but I do bring my phone in for YouTube watching. I even do shorts in the shower, and you know how shorts you have to keep swiping, so then the screen gets all whatever. I even have a phone stand in the shower, which I recently installed. So I don't have to hold it. Well, I usually don't hold it. I usually just put it down and like shower and like kind of look at it like some weirdo. There are much more valid reasons to bring a phone to a shower. Well, perhaps, but not for this show. What YouTube is so important to you that I gotta watch it in the shower? My own channel. No, I'm kidding. Just I like a lot of random videos. All right, let's see what I just watched. I've been watching Nimesh Patel, the comedian. I think he started, doing stand-up, of course, but he started mostly on YouTube. He's incredibly funny. This guy is amazing. He is so funny. Hi, Pine Fellow. Thank you. Welcome to Technical with Sharlit Elise. So, Apple. a new ally for the right to repair bill. Now, Apple has made a formal statement that they are going to support this bill. So Apple is kind of playing the good guy now. They're like, oh yeah, people should have the right to repair their devices. They never actually cared. You could tell by the proprietary charging port. You could tell by the proprietary innards of the phone, how things are manufactured. Even, do you even remember Error 50, was it 53? Error 53 was when Apple used to brick phones on purpose if you or some independent repair shop has tampered with it. They would brick your phone via a software update. That's how aggressive they have been. So to have Apple support this and play the good guy is beyond strange. But I think they know that they can't fight this bill anymore. And that's why they turned a whole new leaf. Z says, Apple good. They don't want proprietary monopoly on everything they do. But they can't fight it. So this bill is called the SB, S as in stovetop, I don't know, and B as in bagel, stovetop bagel 244. All right, you're not going to forget that now. So this is the name of the bill, and this bill is happening in California. And this is exactly what I said. All the technological advances are happening in California or by some legislature in the EU. Everywhere else, we don't really care, or we don't care enough to do something about it, right? How many cans of beans does the bill weigh? This is a joke from last stream. No, we're not measuring the bill in cans of beans. Zuckerberg. So way back when we as in consumers, we tried to enable the right to repair in the state of Nebraska. And this is what Apple said, that it will turn Nebraska into a mecca for hackers. Now, hackers aren't necessarily a bad thing, but take a look at this first slide. This is Senator Lydia Brash to Vice. She said that they, which is Apple, said that doing this would make it very easy for hackers to relocate to Nebraska. But why Nebraska? I have no clue why Nebraska, of all places. Look, this image is Nebraska. It is Nebraska. Obviously, I picked one that illustrates the the least technological aspect of Nebraska. It's a beautiful place, but so Apple says people are going to move to Nebraska so they can hack the iPhone. Look, I get it. If you were doing something illegal, it wouldn't really matter which state you're in, right? You're doing something illegal. Why would you move to a place where it's legal so you can do it? I mean, for the most part, I guess, but is your iPhone that important to you that you're going to move to Nebraska so you could fix it yourself? That's the thing. Nobody is going to move to Nebraska to fix a damn phone. And maybe you think, oh, maybe I should move to Nebraska to start a career in fixing phones. Really? Really? Moving to Nebraska to start fixing phones. It's not going to happen. And you could tell this is one of those scenarios where the big companies, the big tech company is reaching. They are scraping the bottom of the bottle for all the little morsels of potential fact there could be. They're just saying it's going to turn Nebraska into a bunch of criminals. That's basically what they said. They said all the criminals are going to come to Nebraska. It's just mind-blowing. But that was the argument they had. That is how they argued and tried to prevent people from hacking their phone. And don't get me wrong, hacking is actually the word for repairing. Hacking talks about not necessarily something illegal, but hacking means to do something to a device where it wasn't intended to function. That wasn't its intended use. In the case of the consumer, it would be considered hacking. So obviously they use this word because of it has derogatory connotations. It's a negative sounding word. It has a lot of stigma behind it, but hacking isn't necessarily bad. Hacking, like, for example, another form, a form of hacking is in Doom 3. The game was so dark, so the player downloaded a mod that hacked together a flashlight and some duct tape to the pistol so you can see. That is hacking. Some unintended use. Pinefellow says hacking is just exposing vulnerabilities. So Rom Hook says, yeah, so they had a big change of heart. Yeah. I honestly think they're just trying to save face. They know they're on the losing side of this. No one wants this. Even other companies, while they have their own, some of their own proprietary stuff, there a lot of other companies are just using like uniform things like the USB cables to charge their devices, right? It's pretty interchangeable. So why is Apple so reluctant to do this? Pinefellow says, a corporation with a heart. Why doesn't that sound right? At the end of the day, there's got to be some value that they're getting for changing heart. And I think it's good news, right? Between bricking phones when people try to repair them or making the repair tools for iPhones incredibly expensive and hard to obtain, especially legally. You might be able to find a repair person in your local Chinatown because there's always one old Chinese dude who just somehow has this stuff and he could repair it for like less than $100. But if you send it to Apple and it's not covered, they're going to charge you, I don't know, 300, 400 for the screen alone or something. It's pretty ridiculous. So this bill, what it changes is it forces manufacturers to continue to supply, it forces manufacturers to supply consumers and independent repair shops with the tools to fix the phones. They're also going to supply instructions to fix the phones. And by doing this, there might be a change in design in the future because I'm sure Apple's doing things a certain way to make things more difficult for others, but also themselves. Perhaps we're going to see an easier repair process. But for at least the next generation, it's still going to be rather difficult to repair, but at least the tools will be accessible. And these tools will be accessible and the repair support will be accessible for 3 years after the manufacturer stops supporting their device. And that's because they want to make sure that it covers beyond the warranty. So, but this only applies, this 3-year extension applies to devices $50 and $99, to which Apple's credit, there is one product that I could think of that's $75, and that is the Apple HDMI to USB adapter. That's it, or something. It's just some video conversion cable. I don't think you'll be repairing that, but that dongle is $75. It's so ridiculous. But you know, the SB, the stovetop bagel, remember SB 244, that also applies to devices that are more expensive. Devices costing over $100 will be supported for 7 years. So you can have your phone like me. I have a Pixel 3. Don't look at my notifications. You could have a phone like me last 6, 7, or even longer years, as long as I have some way to repair it. Thankfully, I've never cracked the screen on this one. I cracked the back a little, but that doesn't matter, right? But if for whatever reason I want to be a super hipster and I want to keep this phone forever because it has one camera and I feel special because I have one camera, I'm from Brooklyn, then yeah, it makes sense to buy one of these products, right? One of these repair kits to fix the thing. So what happens if with every bill, every lawsuit, what's the punishment if they don't listen? If a company does not follow suit? Well, they will be fined based upon how many days after the manufacturing date that they do not supply repair equipment. So if they have a first offense, it is $1,000 every single day. And once again, keep this in mind, this is all across all their products. They have millions of customers. That's $1,000 per device. On the first infraction. On the second infraction, it's $2,000 a day. All right. So if for whatever reason I buy an iPhone and they don't supply me with the repair stuff and I wait a week, it will cost them $7,000 in fines. This will really hurt Apple if they don't comply. And for third and subsequent dates is $5,000. It goes up to $5,000 per day per device. So these violations are definitely going to move Apple. They make tons of money, and 5,000 is like a desktop from Apple or something. It's like something super ridiculous, right? So they're missing out on a lot of sales. One of the people that's super happy about this, and for good reason, his name is Kyle Wines. He's the CEO of iFixit. And he says, Apple's endorsement of the right to repair bill in California is a watershed moment for consumer rights. It feels like the Berlin Wall of tech repair. Monopolies is starting to crumble brick by brick. Brick by brick, you see. I don't know. I mean, it is a good thing, but obviously, if you're not familiar with iFixit, it is a company that supplies electronics repair tools with the instructions and videos on how to repair electronics on their website. So they're actually very consumer friendly. And they are for the people, and they are going to make tons of money off of this because they're going to be benefiting most from selling the tools. So, seriously, this time, if you had tools to repair your own phone, would you do it? If this bill is passed and you have every right to do it now, would you actually go out of your way to do something like that? Or would you pay someone else to do it for you? Because while we will have the ability to repair ourselves, how much money do we save from it? We got to buy the repair kit, and then we got to apply, do the work to repair it. And maybe it'll take a little more time than bringing it to someone else who could do it for you. I think that's like another hurdle for us to figure out. But thankfully, it's a hurdle that we have to figure out for ourselves. I know a lot of you are really tech savvy and you might enjoy doing something like that. For me, I would probably still outsource it to someone else to do it because honestly, I don't want to screw it up. I don't really want to bother. But yeah, so in the past year, Colorado, New York, and Minnesota, they passed bills that allow each state to repair different types of electronics. So New York passed a bill covering consumer electronics. Colorado passed a bill covering powered wheelchairs and farm equipment. I mean, it's Colorado, right? I mean, it's farmland here and farmland there. I guess that's like the most important. But if you have heard about farmers, their tractors have proprietary pieces of equipment in them. When they buy from the manufacturers, they cannot repair it. They have to bring it to a licensed technician. So you have to drive your broken tractor to wherever to get it repaired. And it's been funny because if you've heard this news, farmers are becoming hackers in order to circumvent the software, the firmware that's installed on these tractors to prevent people from tampering with it. That's how they've been repairing their own stuff. So while it sounds kind of funny where Colorado covers farm equipment as a part of their bill to the right to repair bill, it actually makes sense. And lastly, Minnesota has a bill covering electronics and appliances. Now, we talked about appliances in a previous episode as well, particularly LG, where they will have software updates and firmware updates. I don't know why I bring my phone here, but they will have firmware updates for their dryers, and then they'll unlock special modes with subscription-based models for your laundry machine. All that stuff will be covered eventually, but this is only a first step for California. There are many places in the world that does not have this ability. Perhaps if California's sway is strong enough, we could see a wider adaptation across the US, and hopefully that carries over into the rest of the world. So that's kind of about it. Apple making an about face understand on right to repair. They stop being dicks by breaking our phones because we're trying to repair them, or hopefully they don't continue doing that. But yeah, if that's all the topics today. We covered things such as the Digital Service Act. We covered things such as space travel and We finally covered the right to repair. If you have any questions here live on Twitch, feel free to ask, or on any of the platforms. I do get to the comments. I want to thank you guys for hanging out with me today. Don't forget, later tonight is the XRISM launch. If you want to see a satellite being launched into space, you could check out this link on YouTube. I posted in chat once again. You missed most of the news? Yeah, I start at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So there's like usually a little buffer before I start. But you can always check me out on YouTube, Spotify, and now on Apple Podcasts. So we're going to be on all these platforms for you to enjoy. Thank you, guys. We're going to be rolling into a gaming stream now. But yeah, if you like the topics, if you think some of the topics sucked, tell me about it. Because I want to improve the show as we go. I am getting better with this whole cast. So, yeah. I need to get on Google Podcasts. Thank you. Yeah, Google has a podcast platform. You know, here's the thing. I was trying to get on Apple Podcasts last week. It wouldn't let me. They sent me a code, a 2-factor code, and I returned the 2-factor code, and it didn't work. Their website was just not working. So, you're an Android pleb? Yeah. I've had people ask for Apple Podcasts, so I got that going. I will bring that to Google Podcasts as well. Thank you for that. Yeah. Okie dokie. Technical with Sharlit Elise. Done. All right. So, I'm not going bye-bye. The technical side of Char is bye-bye. Speaking of which,